the branch updates.
That's great. Thank you very much, Julie. And hello, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Thank you for dialing in today for the West Midlands branch meeting. I'm John Hughes. I'm the branch chair, and just got a few little bits of information to share with you before we hand over to our guest speaker this evening. For the West Midlands branch, for those of you on the call here who've received the SurveyMonkey, please do complete that. We've reached out to all of our members here in the West Midlands branch just to get your thoughts and your views on how you think we can help better support you here within the West Midlands. So thank you for those who have responded. We've had a number of people who have replied. If you haven't yet completed that, if you could please do so, that'd be great. We're in the process of building up our schedule of events for the rest of this year into next. And be really good to hear from you to find out what it is you'd like to hear from your branch to help support you. So a few other things just to talk you through. If you're interested in being mentored, then please do register with the IIRSM mentoring platform. You can see the information on screen. You can access that via the IIRSM website. And there's people like myself and others who are mentors within IIRSM who can help support you in your development, your growth, so any questions that you may have on your membership or your wider support to help progress you through the different grades here at IIRSM. In terms of training, IIRSM have a number of different training courses available. The Managing Risk, the Essentials, you can get the latest dates via the IIRSM website, where you can also see the other new courses and services that have recently been launched by IIRSM. Also, we have the 1% Safer bursary in partnership with the 1% Safer organisation, as led by Professor Andrew Sharman. Again, some great work being done there. If you have any colleagues in Nigeria, Egypt, India, Pakistan and Ghana, then they may be eligible for a bursary to help them develop again their growth and risk management. If you'd like to find out more information, again, please do take a look at the IIRSM website where all that information will be there for you. Quick date for your diary. The next meeting we have is a month's time, and that's the 14th of April. And our guest speaker there is Mark Wright from the Health and Safety Index, and he'll be talking to us about measuring health and safety performance. Now, Mark is actually in Australia, he's in Melbourne, so whilst that's going to be 6 p.m. UK time, then obviously that's a different time of day entirely for Mark to be dialing in. Mark is a highly regarded, internationally recognised expert in risk management, working with clients like Lockheed Martin and being a strategic advisor to the Australian Grand Prix. So any Formula One fans, it is the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne on the 7th to 10th of April. And just 4 days after that Grand Prix, we've got the strategic advisor for risk management and safety of that event here, talking live to the West Midlands branch. So we're really excited to have Mark here. He'll be presenting a case study outlining the learning, measurable improvements and data-led insights to making strategic choices. And during that webinar, his business, the Health and Safety Index, will also be sharing with us industry trends from 2021 benchmark results. So that really is a not to be missed event. Please do keep a lookout for that. That'll be in a month's time. You can register via our LinkedIn page and you can get your invite and come along, and please talk to any colleagues. It's an open forum. You don't have to be a IIRSM member to join that event. Okay, so without further ado, we'll hand over to our key speaker this evening, Dr. Neil Stanley. Neil, if you'd like to take over the reins and bring up your presentation, please. We've got about 35-40 minutes or so of presentation from Neil, and then it's open to any questions. So if you have any questions at all for the leading expert in sleep, now's your opportunity. Here he is live talking to you. So you can post your questions in the comments. You can ask to be unmuted, and we shall do that. And I'd encourage you to ask any questions that you've ever thought about around sleep. So thank you very much, and please welcome Neil Stanley.
Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be talking to you this evening. So I'm going to talk about sleep health and safety. As you can see, my name is Neil Stanley. I'm a PhD, so I'm not a medic. I'm a proper doctor. Just by way of introduction, I've been involved in sleep research for the last 40 years. Initially started my work at the Institute of Aviation Medicine in Farnborough in Hampshire, working alongside the Royal Air Force, looking at things like aircrew workload, jet lag, shift work. medicines you can take and safely fly, medicines you can take, get a good night's sleep and safely fly the next day. I was actually the first person ever to record sleep in the cockpit of an aircraft in flight, and I still hold the record for recording sleep in more people higher up a mountain for longer than anybody else has ever done so. In the early 90s, I moved to the University of Surrey, where I created the world's largest clinical trial sleep laboratory, so a 24-bed unit looking at the effects of medication on sleep. So pretty much any drug in the last 30 years that's had any effect on sleep, whether by design or by accident. I've had some small or indeed some large hand in the development of those drugs. I have worked clinically in London, Copenhagen and Oslo. I'm a member of all the things you should be a member of as a sleep expert, and I've published 38 scientific publications on all aspects of sleep. The reason for telling you this is not to boast at how wonderful I am, but actually to tell you that I actually am a bona fide sleep expert. The reason for this is because any idiot can pretend to be a sleep expert, and indeed there are plenty of idiots pretending to be sleep experts in the media. Most of what they say is either just common sense or complete nonsense, but I am a bona fide sleep expert. So for the last 12 years, I've spent my life as an independent sleep expert, traveling the world, talking about the importance of sleep basically to anybody who will listen, and tonight that's you, lucky you. So I can talk about any aspect of sleep and to either healthcare professionals or industry, particularly safety related industries, institute, quarrying, EPC group, people like that, where getting a good night's sleep is vitally important. So why do I spend my life talking about sleep? Well, a lot of people spend their time attending to their nutrition or exercise. They want to live a happy and healthy life, so they eat healthily, they do exercise, but a lot of people fail to recognize the importance of sleep. And the issue with that is that sleep provides the foundation for optimal alertness and performance. It's critical to health, wellness and longevity, and sleep is a fundamental physical need. It's like food, water and air. You have to do it, whether you like it or not. You will actually die of lack of sleep long before you would ever die from lack of food, and only just after a lack of water. So sleep is a biological necessity. You have to do it. So a few years ago, I came up with this, the well-being triangle, and plenty of people have copied this, and they flipped it. They put sleep at the top because they're trying to tell you that sleep is important. So of course they put it at the top of the pyramid. Well, if that's what I intended, I'd have done it. I'm not an idiot. But the reason why sleep is at the bottom is sleep supports the other two. The more sleepy you are, the more you crave sugary and fatty foods. And so if you just have 2 nights poor sleep, you'll eat up to 1,000 calories more the next day. So you crave sugar and fat. And actually, if you get a better night's sleep, you will actually eat less sugar simply because you've had a good night's sleep. So if you're trying to lose weight or indeed maintain a healthy weight, then getting a good night's sleep is vitally important. Exercise. If you exercise when you're sleepy, you're at a 75% increased risk of a sports-related injury. And if you still don't sleep very well, of course, recovery and recuperation from that accident will take much, much longer. So if you want to diet or exercise, the first thing you should do is fix your sleep. It makes everything else so much easier. Now, a couple of questions for you. Luckily, I'm not in the same room as you, but you've all heard it. I'm safe at work, so it doesn't matter if I'm sleepy. I've done this job 1,000 times. I'm a trained professional. I know what I'm doing. I could literally do this job in my sleep. Well, of course, that's absolutely nonsense. Being sleepy slows your reaction time, impairs judgment, decision making, decline in attention and alertness, increased moodiness and aggressive behavior, and difficulty remembering things. But you then follow up, oh, but it doesn't matter. I know that I'm a danger when I'm sleepy, but I can tell when I'm going to fall asleep. So then I can stop doing whatever it is that I'm doing, which is a risk. Well, again, that's absolutely nonsense. The more sleepy you are, the less able you are to judge whether you are sleepy or not. So by the time you're driving along the motorway and you see the tiredness kills, take a break, it is vastly too late. You have been sleepy for a long time before that. And a few years ago, I was involved with the Department of Transport on a campaign saying the first yawn is too late. So you don't know. And they did a study with anaesthetists, and they were monitoring their brain waves, and they asked the anaesthetist doing the operations, did they ever fall asleep during the operation? And they found that 75% of the anaesthetists said that they never fell asleep, even though they actually fell asleep. So when you're driving along, you get your noddies, you get your head drops, or you can't remember the last 5 miles. That's because you've fallen asleep. So poor sleep in the workplace increases accidents and injuries, it increases disability, absenteeism, presenteeism, basically being at work and doing nothing, playing on Facebook or looking out the window, and work productivity and work performance loss. So, as I say, sleep is a fundamental biological necessity. We need it for repair and recuperation of both physical and mental functioning, but it's not really about physical functioning. We can do that anytime. We're doing it now. We're sat down, our heart rate's dropped, our blood pressure's dropped, so physically we can repair and recuperate. But our mind is still working. You're either listening to me or looking at what's happening in the Ukraine on Facebook, or literally just staring out the window. Your brain is still working very, very hard indeed. So sleep is much more about the brain. Sleep is important for the optimal functioning of the endocrine, metabolic, and the immune system. And during COVID, of course, there was a lot of promotion about the idea of getting a good night's sleep to boost your immune system. You don't actually boost your immune system, you just allow your immune system to work optimally if you get a good night's sleep. And it is true that if you have a poor night's sleep and you go to work the next day, you are 4 times more likely to catch the common cold because you've suppressed your immune system. Sleep affects all organs of the body, but primarily sleep is of the brain and for the brain. As I mentioned earlier, the only bit of the body that must have sleep is the brain, because only during the night can the brain's activity reduce to any degree and for the brain to be able to do its housekeeping. So what is sleep? Well, in any one 24-hour period, you're in one of 3 distinct states of being. Either you're awake, which hopefully you all are still now, or you're in non-rapid eye movement sleep, or you're in rapid eye movement sleep. Now, REM and non-REM are as different from each other as they are from awake. You don't notice that difference because you're asleep, but they are very different states of being. Non-REM sleep makes up the majority of the night, 75 to 80% of the night, and is traditionally divided into 3 stages of sleep, each of increasing depth. So stage 1 is the transition from awake to asleep. So if you are awake and you're going to go to sleep, you'll go through stage 1 sleep whenever you fall asleep. It makes up about 1 to 5% of the night, and is of course the lightest stage of sleep, such that if I were to wake you up during stage 1 sleep, you would say, why did you do that? I wasn't actually sleeping. Stage 2, 45 to 50% of the night. Now you'd have thought the thing we spend 50% of the night in would be really, really important. Well, it probably is. We just don't know why. We think it's got some involvement in memory, but it's certainly not its primary purpose. Stage 3, deep slow wave sleep, makes up 20-25% of the night. Slow wave sleep is the most important part of sleep. Slow wave sleep is the bit of sleep that makes you think like you've had a good night's sleep, and it's the bit that makes you feel awake during the day. Slow wave sleep is involved in the immune system, which I talked about in the previous slide. But slow wave sleep is vital for a couple of reasons. First of all is memory. During the day, you gain a lot of stuff. And by the end of the day, you go to sleep and the brain needs to sort out the stuff that is in your memory. Now, some of the stuff you learned today or acquired today is of absolutely no interest at all, and so you can safely forget it. But this is an active process. Your brain identifies that piece of information, judges whether it's useful or not, and if it's not useful, then you can get rid of it. And it's like moving an email from your inbox to your trash. It's an active process. But some of the pieces of information you receive, they are important. And so what you want to do is lay those down as a memory. So your brain identifies that piece of information, it lays it down as a memory, it then lays it down somewhere where you can find it, so you can actually use it. And then finally, during your deep sleep, you make the connection between that new piece of information and all the other pieces of information that pertain to that you have already got. You learn during the night. So if you practice a task until you're as good at the task as you can be, before you go to bed, and get a good night's sleep, you'll be up to 17% better, quicker at that task, merely because you have slept. And slow sleep is actually the only time you ever physically grow in your entire life. Rapid eye movement sleep is the second state of being during the night. Rapid eye movement sleep makes up about 20–25% of the night, and it's when you have your long story-like dreams. Everybody dreams 4 or 5 times a night, but you can only remember dreams if you wake up during it. If you don't wake up in a dream, your dream is gone and it's gone forever. Now, when you're dreaming, your dreams are real. So it's as real as sitting here now is real. So you know that sometimes you wake up and you're breathing heavily and you're sweating and your heart's racing, you feel fear or anxiety. That's because genuinely your body feels as though that's what you've done. And sometimes you wake up and you think, I can't possibly go to work today. I've just spent all night fighting dinosaurs and frankly, I'm exhausted. Well, again, that is true. That's how the body may feel. Now, it would be a bit embarrassing if 4 or 5 times a night you were to run around the bedroom being chased by dinosaurs. So nature protects both you and your bed partner from harm. When you dream, you lose muscle tone, so you are unable to act out your dreams. Now, your dreams are involved in emotional well-being and emotional memory. So deep sleep is about factual memories, what happened. REM sleep is about emotional memories. How do I feel about what happened? So how is sleep put together? Well, this is a typical night for a typical adult. It's not really, it's a very idealized version of a typical night for a typical adult, but essentially within 15 to 20 minutes of you switching your light off, you should fall asleep. A healthy adult will fall asleep within 20 minutes, all things being equal. Regularly taking more than 30 minutes to fall asleep would be indicative of insomnia. Once you've fallen asleep, you'll quickly go through your lighter stages of sleep into your first period of deep sleep. You have a consolidated period of deep sleep for 40 to 90 minutes, and then you have your first dream period. That first dream period may be quite short, maybe just a matter of 10 minutes or so, then back into some more of that deep restorative sleep, and then on a roughly 90-minute cycle, you have your REM periods interspersed with that lighter stage 2 sleep. So most of your deep restorative sleep is in the first third of the night. The latter part of the night, as I say, is in REM or stage 2. Now, you are, you are preferentially designed to wake up during REM. So if you woke up this morning without an alarm clock, you almost certainly woke up in that last dream of the night. And if you got up to pee during the night, you almost certainly woke up in REM, and hence why you remember that dream that you were having, at least briefly. And this is also the reason why some people think they wake up at exactly the same time every single night. They go to bed roughly at the same time, they have their REM periods roughly at the same time, they wake up in a REM period, and then confirmation bias just tells them that it's 6 minutes past 3 every time they wake up. So, one of the big cons that you believe in is that you will need 8 hours sleep. What is interesting is nobody in the last 600 years of any eminence in science or medicine has ever recommended 8 hours sleep. 8 hours is merely an average. It is not an ideal. So sleep need is a bit like height. It's genetically determined and we're all different. So there are some people who only need a very short amount of sleep each night in order to thrive, 4 to 5 hours. There are others who need 10, 11 hours to thrive. I personally, after 40 years as a sleep expert, know that I need 9.5 hours sleep every night in order to feel at my best. So it's about getting the sleep you need, not some magic number of hours. Now you might say, how much sleep do I need? Well, very simply, it's the answer to a single question, and that question is, how do you feel during the day? Because if you have problems sleeping, you will have daytime consequences. So if you feel awake, alert, focused during the day, you don't have a sleep problem. If you feel tired during the day, you almost certainly don't have a sleep problem. Tired has got very little to do with needing sleep. Tired is what I like to call having a bit of a rubbish life. Tired has got to do with it's the 10th of March, it's going dark, I didn't win the Euro Millions on Tuesday, so I'm probably going to have to carry on talking to people like you for the rest of my life. Life's just not great at the moment, isn't it? Now, that might all be true, but it's got nothing to do with my sleep. If you have a problem with your sleep, you will be sleepy. Now, you might say, well, what's the difference between being tired and being sleepy? Well, it's very simple. You walk up 3 flights of stairs. When you get to the top, do you need to sit down or do you need to sleep? If you need to sit down, you're tired, fatigued, knackered, exhausted. If you're sleepy, you will want a sleep. And that is the difference between tired and sleepy. So, how sleepy are you now? So luckily, again, I'm not in the room to see you answer these questions, but this is the Epworth Sleepiness Scale, a validated scale used in hospitals to show how sleepy you are during the day. And what's going to happen? I'm going to show you 8 different scenarios. And in each scenario, you have to imagine that you were doing that thing now and how likely you would be to fall asleep on a 0 to 3 scale. 0, no chance of you dozing. 1, a slight chance of you dozing. 2, moderate chance. 3, high chance. So of course a high score would be 24. We'll crack through these relatively quickly because hopefully you don't have to think too hard about the answer, but just keep a running total as we go through them. So if you were sitting and reading 0 to 3, how likely would it be for you to fall asleep? 0, not at all. 3, a high chance. Watching TV, sitting inactive in a public place, a theatre or a meeting, as a passenger in a car for an hour without a break, sitting and talking to someone, sitting quietly after lunch without alcohol, in a car while stopped for a few minutes in traffic, and lying down to rest in the afternoon when circumstances permit. As you notice that each of my slides contained a picture of Her Majesty. The reason for this is that I'm the only sleep expert ever to have lectured in Buckingham Palace 3 times, and it was good enough for them, so it's good enough for you. So hopefully you've all got a nice round figure. So how sleepy are you? Well, actually, a score of less than 10 is considered normal. So if you're less than 10, well done, good for you. A score greater than 10 would be indicative that you are excessively sleepy. Of course, the higher the score, the higher the level of sleepiness. So if any of you are over 10, this would provoke in me 2 questions. Number 1, why? And number 2, why did you go to work today? Because if you're an 8-hour-a-night person, I know I just spent the last couple of slides telling you you weren't an 8-hour-a-night person, but if you were, and you only got 6 hours sleep last night, that's the equivalent of drinking 2 half-litre bottles of beer. 4 hours sleep, 4 beers, 2 hours sleep, 5 beers, and 0 hours sleep is equivalent to drinking 7 beers. Now, you would not turn up to work drunk, and I'm sure for all the organisations you work with, turning up to work drunk would be a disciplinary offence, but you would perfectly well turn up to work sleepy, even though the impairment to your performance is exactly the same as a dose of alcohol. But alcohol and being drunk is socially unacceptable, but being sleepy is something that is seen as heroic. You actually want people to praise you for being tough and muddling through, and oh, aren't you a hero for coming in even though you're exhausted? No, you're not a hero. You're a health and safety liability. And so it should be as frowned upon as turning up to work drunk if you turn up to work sleepy. So the number of hours that you have been awake with terms of subjective alertness at the bottom and cognitive throughput, i.e. the ability to think, as you can see, drops over the number of hours you've been awake. And certainly being awake between sort of 16 and 24 hours is a big issue, and that translates into the risk of a fatigue crash. Again, none of you would drink and drive, but after a long day at the office, you're perfectly happy to jump in the car, even though the risk of driving, the relative risk of driving, is hugely increased after 10 hours of being awake. So fatigue or sleepiness is thought to be involved in about 16 to 60% of road accidents. The highway figure is that it actually is 23% of highway accidents are caused by poor sleep, but 83% of highway fatalities are caused by poor sleep. The reason for this is if you fall asleep at the wheel, you don't do anything. If you're drunk, you would swerve, you'd brake late, you'd do something. If you fall asleep, you don't do anything. And that's the way the police know that it's a sleep-related crash. There are no skid marks. So you hit what you're going to hit without any loss of momentum. So even moderate amounts of sleep deprivation is as dangerous as driving with low-level intoxication. The worst time for accidents, 2 to 7 o'clock in the morning, and the post-lunch dip, 2 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Nobody, but nobody, should be driving a motor vehicle between 2 and 7 o'clock in the morning. You know, when you get in your car in the morning to drive to work, you always hear of an earlier accident that has closed the motorway, not one that's just happened, always an earlier. So nobody, if you talk about reducing risk, no cars on the road between 2, or lorries or buses or anything between 2 and 7 a.m. in the morning. So as I say, if you have, this is just the bottle of beer argument. So if you had 6 hours in bed, that's equivalent to just under the drink driving limit in Europe. 4 hours in the bed is the same as the UK drink driving limit. And if you had 0 hours sleep at night, you are 2.5 times over the drink driving limit. So as I say, if you think that's an acceptable behavior for your colleagues, then God help you. And the thing is, it's cumulative. So this is some work that Greg Belenky did at the Walter Reed Army Base in America, and you can see this is sleepiness. So this is objective sleep. Sorry, this is subjective sleepiness, and you can see that across every day that you don't get a good night's sleep, you will have poor performance, and once you get a good night's sleep, you'll turn back to normal. This is a number of lapses. This is on something called the psychomotor vigilance task. Essentially, you just stare at a red light, and when the red light comes on, you press a button. It really is as simple as that. So these are the lapses. These are the times the red light comes on and you miss it. So this is the exact analog of a car brake light coming on, or a warning light on a machine which you need to react to. And as you can see, every day that you get poor sleep, it increases the decrement in performance. And this is mean speed of reaction. Again, every day that you have poor sleep, you're increasing your poor reaction time. So what are the consequences of sleep loss? Impaired hand-eye coordination, slower response time, lower visual discrimination, reduced alertness, increased error rates, reduced logical reasoning, short-term memory problems, reduced concentration, frustration, irritability, impaired decision-making, injuries, and accidents. And all of these are measurable and meaningful. So if you are not addressing poor sleep, then you are basically having an unsafe workforce. I think I've just said that. The ability to comprehend situations without distraction. One of the things that sleep deprivation does is that you lose the ability to make decisions. You get tunnel vision. You don't actually comprehend all of the information you've done and be able to fix it into the big picture. You get tunnel vision. Monitoring events, you get distracted from critical tasks. Your mind wanders. You look out the window. You blink and or have a very long blink. Risk assessment. People who have poor sleep are liable to engage in risk-taking behaviours, and that goes from consuming drugs of abuse, or too much alcohol, or drinking too much Red Bull, to taking a corner a bit too quickly, or not removing the safety and you remove before flight tag off an aircraft or something like that. People think, oh, it doesn't matter, or somebody else will notice. Thinking laterally and being innovative, you have to be able to be creative, and we lose that creativity when we are fatigued. We're not allowed, we can't see workarounds, shortcuts, ways of doing things, pattern recognition. Personal interest in the outcome. I mentioned this earlier. You don't care whether you're being unsafe. Somebody else's problems. You know, you've done your job as well as you can. Doesn't really matter. I'm clocking off the shift now. I'll leave it to the night shift, or whatever. Mood. The more, you know this yourself, the more sleepy you are, the more moody you are. The next day, if you've had a bad night's sleep, you snap at your partner, you shout at the cat. Same with your business colleagues, your work colleagues. If you are moody, you have a lack of regard for normal conventions, childish humour, impatience, irritability, mucking about. Communication, you lose your ability to communicate. You slur your words, you can't read people's body language or their tone of voice, so you do overreact. Also, your ability to perform tasks or monitor your performance of that task. You lose that ability to be self-aware as to what you are doing or whether you're making a mistake, which of course why some places like Australia in hospitals have the buddy system, where you may be in trouble but your buddy is there to remind you that you're making mistakes and call you out on the fact. In the UK, in the NHS, it's the complete opposite. You never criticize your colleagues for being sleepy because they're God and they're allowed to do whatever they like. And recollection of timing of events. So, you know, do A before B before you do C. Well, I did that. Did you really? Well, I don't know. I did A, B, and C, but I can't remember which order. Well, that's not exactly the way that you would want somebody to be safe. So how do you know that you're not getting enough sleep? Your work performance is not up to spec. You or somebody else maybe will notice that you're making mistakes. Nodding off when you can, lunch times or breaks. Always be suspicious of the person who goes out to eat their meal in their car, their lunch in the car. Less efficient in your work routine, taking longer to complete exactly the same task, having trouble focusing, finding it difficult to be motivated, and as I say, miserable and moody with your friends, family, and your colleagues. So, very simply, how do you get a good night's sleep? Now, you might think, my God, he's cutting it fine. There's not a lot of this. He's going to tell us an awful lot about getting a good night's sleep, and we haven't got much time to do that. Well, I'm not. I'm going to just show you this one slide, because this is all you need to know. You may have seen there's all this advice about how to get a good night's sleep. Do this, do that, don't do the other. It's all just wind. Essentially, there are 3 things you need for a good night's sleep. All other sleep advice falls under one of these 3 categories. So, number 1, a sleep promoting environment. Number 2, a calm mind. Number 3, a relaxed body. So, sleep promoting environment. Your bedroom needs to be a sanctuary for sleep. It needs to be the place you do sleep, and when you walk into your bedroom, the only thought that you should have is about sleep. The only activity you are allowed to do in your bedroom is to sleep. Your sleep sanctuary is your bedroom. So no wake behaviors of any sort in the bedroom. So your bedroom needs to be dark, quiet, cool, comfortable. So dark. How dark's dark? Well, actually, even the red standby light in your TV, for some people, can be enough light to disturb your sleep. So there is a massive difference in the amount of light needed to disturb people's sleep. So for some people, it is a very low level of light. For others, It can be the level of the light in your home office on a sunny day is what's needed to disturb your sleep. So your bedroom needs to be dark. So blackout blinds, heavy curtains, eye shades if you can't afford curtains or blackout blinds, gaffer tape on all light sources in the bedroom. So your bedroom needs to be dark. It needs to be cool, 16 to 18 degrees. Because in order to get a good night's sleep, you need to lose 1 degree of body temperature. You lose that body temperature out of your head and face, because that's the big fleshy thing that sticks out from under your duvet. So the temperature in the bedroom, in the bed, can be warm, but you warm the bed up anyway, just because you're one big cuddly hot water bottle. So you need a temperature gradient. So the bedroom needs to be cool, the bed can be warm. If the bed is freezing, then you may want to heat the bed up with a hot water bottle. But if you are very cold at night, you do not need to run the heating. Just wear a nightcap or a balaclava, because as I say, most of your heat's lost through the head, so covering your head. And that's the reason why nightcaps died out, because bedrooms got hotter. Quiet, the World Health Organization says 35 decibels with intermittent peaks of 45 decibels. In the 35 decibels, quiet conversation in the library, 45 decibels, a truck going past a double glazed window, your average snorer, 65 to 95 decibels. If you have a snorer in your bed, get rid of them. Fresh air is good for sleep, and then your bed. How much did you spend on your bed? If you spend less on your bed than you did on your new iPhone or your funky TV, then you deserve every bad thing that occurs to you. If you live to the age of 70, you will spend 220,000 hours in bed. You'll spend more time in bed than you'll spend in any one other place in your entire life. And you think that's worth 400 quid from IKEA, do you? Well, you know. So that's it. So that's your sleep promoting environment. Relaxed mind, quiet body. Oh, sorry, quiet mind, relaxed body. Essentially, you can be completely exhausted, getting to bed and still not fall asleep. Why? Because you don't have a quiet mind. So a quiet mind is an absolute prerequisite for sleep. So how do you quieten your mind? Well, frankly, I've no idea. I know how I quieten my mind. I read every night, but that might not work for you. So what does work for you? Well, Horlicks, chamomile tea, yoga, mindfulness, meditation, listening to Pink Floyd really loudly. I don't care. I don't care what you do, as long as it relaxes you, and as long as you do it for about 45 minutes before you go to bed. Put your cares and worries to sleep a long time before you go to sleep. So whatever works for you, if it quietens your mind, then it will put you into the right place. Now, of course, if you get into bed and those intrusive worries start crowding your mind, then practice something called thought blocking. Go through the alphabet. Naming an animal beginning with this, the letter of the alphabet. Subtract 7 repeatedly from 1,000. List alphabetically all the operas you've ever said. Anything that distracts you from those worries. And then a strong association between sleep and the bed. So as I said earlier, you go into your bedroom to be asleep. If you are not asleep, you shouldn't be in your bedroom. If you are asleep, you should be in your bedroom. So no falling asleep on the couch whilst watching the footy. So if you are awake for 30 minutes at the start of the night, or approximately 20 minutes in the middle of the night, you still haven't fallen asleep, get up, go somewhere else, do something quiet, go back to bed when you feel sleepy again. There's no point lying in bed getting ever more frustrated that you can't sleep, tossing and turning, thinking your mattress, your pillow, your duvet has suddenly become uncomfortable, and how your partner hates you because they are sleeping perfectly well. So don't fret if you can't fall asleep, or you can't fall back asleep, then get up. Do something quiet. What does it matter what you do? Listen to the cricket, have a cup of tea, do some knitting, whatever you want to do. But when you feel sleepy again, go back to bed. No direct effort towards sleep. Lying in bed going, I must get sleep, I must get sleep, I must get sleep, I must get sleep. Guess what? You're not going to get back to sleep. So again, this goes back to a quiet mind, doing something relaxing. And then absence of regular thought process about sleep. Oh, if I don't get a good night's sleep tonight, I'll go to work tomorrow and I'll make a mistake and the boss will notice and then he'll sack me, and then I'll not be able to pay my mortgage and I'll lose the house and my wife will leave me, and I'll die in a cardboard box under Spaghetti Junction. oh, I can't sleep now, can I? So don't worry about sleep, as the Nike advert says, just do it. And that is it. Every other piece of sleep advice falls into one of those three broad categories. There's no magic way to fall asleep because we're all different. As I say, I like reading at night. I couldn't listen to the radio before bed. I hate the taste of chamomile tea. And if there's a sprig of lavender anywhere in the house, I would have to burn it before I could get a good night's sleep. So find out what works for you. It's as simple as that. So that's me saying thank you. That's who I am. That's my email address for hate mail. That's my website for more of my rantings. That's my book if you want to purchase it, and that's proof my book works. Thank you very much, and I'll now take any questions that you may have. So feel free to either stick your hand up or somebody has. Let's see if I can get. Well, okay, there's a question. People in the workplace may feel tired in the day and may often blame this on the temperature. Is something that has merit, and is there an optimum temperature to stay below? Well, temperature is not directly related to sleep. Temperature is related basically to feelings of laziness. You know, an office should be the same as your home. How hot is your home? I mean, all through winter, my house has never been above 18 degrees. But of course, everybody's different. Half the workforce will say it's cold, half the workforce will say it's too hot. Essentially, you will fall asleep or feel sleepy if you're not engaged in what you do. So it's probably more to do with what they're doing or their mindset rather than their temperature, to be honest. People like to blame anything. Anybody else got a question? I think in the chat.
Yeah, thanks very much, Neil. That was really fantastic presentation. Thank you. We've had some questions come in through other different forums as well. If anyone on the call has got any questions they'd like to ask Neil, now's a great time to pop that into the chat or drop us a line and we can get those questions across. From my perspective, Neil, linking it into risk management and health and safety, sleep or fatigue has been and is recognised as a key root cause factor to some of the world's worst health and safety incidents, whether look at Clapham Junction, Chernobyl, the Texas City explosion, the Exxon Valdez oil spill, or indeed the loss of the Challenger space shuttle. HSE's own figures here in the UK suggest up to 20% of workplace injuries are caused through a lack of sleep and fatigue. So I think all of us who are risk professionals on this session here, you can take a lot away from some of those key points that you've raised there.
Yeah, I think the problem is, I mean, that every company has got an alcohol policy. I can't imagine there's a single company with a policy for turning up sleepy. I don't know of any company in the UK who measures sleepiness of their workforce when they come in. I don't know of any industry that has adopted a shift pattern on the basis of expert advice rather than just dividing 24 hours up into 3 8-hour blocks. And it's you've got, I said nobody should have a car or a lorry on the road between 2 and 7 o'clock in the morning. So why does every single major haulage company send their lorries out at 4 o'clock in the morning? If people, needle stick injuries in hospitals, if you went to your hospital HR safety advisor and said, I can reduce needle stick injuries by 50% tomorrow, they'd say, yeah, brilliant. You say, right, I'll redo the shift pattern. They'll say no. So sleep is the bit of risk management that isn't thought about because you're going to get away with it, or you think you're going to get away with it. Because yes, they are involved in accidents, but they're always ascribed to something else, operator error or something like that. And that's the real problem, that we don't take sleep seriously. We cross our fingers and hope to God nothing happens. And that's the safety policy of most of UK or most of world industry is, it perhaps won't happen to us.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. You mentioned there about clinicians. I haven't heard it for a little while since COVID and other things that have dominated the news here in the UK, but it wasn't that long ago that most news bulletins would be talking about junior doctors and the excessive hours they're working. I guess just linking into that, yeah. How do we deal with safety critical people like junior doctors and clinicians who are working long shifts? Fatigue must be creeping in, and presumably there's potential for negative consequence.
Exactly. But remember, when the Working Time Directive came in, every president of all of the Royal Colleges for medicine said how a doctor's going to train if they don't work 160 hours a week. Sleepy doctors make 47% more serious medical mistakes. And yet, when Chuck Seisler announced in the New England Journal of Medicine a few years ago that doctors should inform patients of their levels of sleepiness, 252 comments. A couple of surgeons saying, actually, I work better when I'm tired. Others saying, I'm Superman, I'm God, I don't have any human failings. So yeah, I mean, doctors in America kill 400,000 people a year by medical mistakes. It's the biggest cause of voluntary death in America is physician error.
On the point there about decision making across the political spectrum, and again putting political views to one side, but Margaret Thatcher was regarded and renowned as surviving on just 4 hours sleep a night. So I guess if we've got sleepy politicians, that can also have an impact on decision making and major policy.
Well, this is it. I mean, you mentioned the Challenger space shuttle, and your people, when that happened, said, oh, it was the molten fire colloid rings in the solid rocket boosters, because of the way the American politicians work. These solid fuel boosters were actually made in Arizona and had to be shipped to Florida. But they could only be shipped by rail, and there was one particular tunnel that it was impossible for the booster to go through whole, so they had to cut it in half and then join it with the molten thiacryl O-ring, and it was actually the O-ring that failed. But that night, the guys they were going to launch at dawn, they were going to launch at dusk, but they had to delay the launch by 12 hours, so they're going to launch at dawn. So they were under real pressure to get the launch off, and they were told 2 hours before the launch by the meteorologist that the temperature at dawn was going to be -4. Now that is an absolutely key piece of information, because the O-rings would fail if you launched the shuttle with an air temperature below 0. But they did not hear that piece of information, or maybe they did hear it, but they didn't compute that piece of information. So the minute they decided to launch the shuttle in such cold weather, the shuttle was doomed to failure. So that's the problem. It's that one crucial bit of information that, first of all, you don't hear, you don't process, and you don't know that you've missed it. So that is, has anybody checked what the temperature is going to be? That's what you would have hoped to have happened, but none of those policies happened. None of those thoughts, because everybody was in the same state. They was in that mindset, we have to get it launched. So yeah, the worst thing that you could ever do is get on the red eye to America, get off the plane, make a decision, and then get back on the plane and fly back. You're going to make a stupid decision.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. Michelle, so we have some more questions come through in the chat. Do you want to run through those?
Yeah, absolutely. Neil, thanks for that. I've really enjoyed this webinar. Having a bit of an interesting sleep pattern myself on various different things, so hopefully I can pick up some things that you've said. So just to cover some questions that people have put in the chat. So one from Paul. Thank you, Paul. What are your thoughts on CPAP machines as the only option offered from a sleep doctor?
Okay, CPAP, continuous positive airway pressure, are devices that essentially blow air through a mask, which you either wear over your nose or on your nose and mouth when you have sleep apnea. What happens in sleep apnea is your airway closes. and so you're breathing against an obstruction, and therefore that's not good. But CPAP blows air to keep the airway patent so you can breathe. Now, CPAP works, it's brilliant. You wear it, and it's set up properly, it will work brilliant. But there are newer technologies, because the problem with CPAP is the air pressure is continuous. So when you're breathing in, that's good, but when you're breathing out against that pressure, and you may find that difficult. So there's now things called BiPAP, which works a bit like a diver's regulator. So when you breathe in, you get pressure, but when you breathe out, you're not breathing against pressure. Or there's auto CPAP, which actually adjusts the pressure across the night as you need it. So as I say, they're the number one thing. There can be another version or another treatment, which is a mandibular positioning device. This is essentially like a boxer's gum shield, which is fitted by a dental, a sleep medicine dentist, and essentially this stops the jaw from dropping back. So if you have the upper anatomy that a mandibular positioning device could help, then that could be an alternative. But if you have sleep apnea, you do need to take it seriously. You do need to find a treatment that will be acceptable to you. There are hundreds of different masks out there for CPAP machines, so if you're not happy with your mask, there are plenty of opportunities to find the one that will work for you.
Okay,
thank you, Neil. Yeah, thanks, Neil. Sounds like things have moved on a bit from an elderly relative of mine that had a walnut stitched into the back of their pyjama jacket, so if they lay on the back, they'd feel uncomfortable and roll over onto the side.
Oh no, I still recommend that.
Well, on that point, the question came through actually: back, side, or front? Is there any preference? Is there any?
No, because you move 12 to 14 times a night without you knowing. So you may fall asleep in one position, but you sleep in every other position under the sun. So a third of people who say that they fall asleep in one position actually get it wrong. So there is no such thing as a back, side, or front sleeper. You are a sleeper, and if you buy a product that says it's designed for back, side, or front sleepers, then you're a fool and you're wasting your money.
Okay, thanks, Neil.
Of course, then you've got the obscure. So obviously, tragically, we lost Meatloaf recently, which was a great shame, and a few months before that, Jim Steinman. But as a Jim Steinman fan, apparently he used to sleep like a bat. He used to regularly go to sleep in an upside down position. He thought that would help his creative processes.
Well, people believe anything, to be honest. I think there might have been some pharmaceutical products involved in that thought.
Okay, we've got a question from John, our vice chair, as well. So it's an interesting one. So he says, my cat and dog are always sleeping. Do animals generally need more sleep than humans, or have they got the right idea, I would say?
Well, I mean, essentially an animal can fall asleep if it's met its biological needs. So if it's had food, water and sex, there's no point being awake. And because we feed our cats and dogs and they don't have to go hunting, then why would you? But what was interesting, I mean, people think the perfect illustration of this is sloths. People think, oh, sloths are lazy and they sleep for 16 to 20 hours in the laboratory. But then somebody went to South America and looked, and in the wild, they only sleep for 8 hours because they have to find food and water and somebody to have sex with. So we would sleep more if we didn't work 9 to 5 jobs. Yeah. We've conned ourselves into believing that working 9 to 5 is the natural state of being, which of course it isn't. You know, in the winter you'd sleep for a lot, and in the summer you'd get up, you'd work a long day in the fields, probably having a nap at lunchtime, get home and crash at 9 o'clock. So we've conned ourselves into this. We would sleep much more if, as I say, somebody fed us and we didn't have to go to the shops. If your cat had to go and shop and buy its own food, it'd get less sleep.
Right. Very good. Very good. So talking about that, the next one that's come along is about naps actually. So are they good for you? And if so, is there a better time or length to aim for? I mean that one kind of links with my sleep pattern, because whether it's psychological or what, I don't know. I always wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and then struggle to sleep for the rest of that time. But then if I can, obviously if I'm not working, John, who's my boss, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, if I'm sitting watching the TV or something like that, I'm gone. It's like 3 o'clock is my awake or sleep thing, but the opposite way around.
Yeah, well, we have a post-lunch dip. The post-lunch dip is real. It happens between 2 and 4 o'clock. It doesn't need food. It's just a dip in our consciousness. So yeah, that's the ideal time to nap, is between 2 and 4 o'clock. The thing with napping, yes, it's good. A 20-minute nap is far better than a couple of cups of coffee to keep you awake. Coffee will take 30 minutes to kick in, and then its benefits will only appear for 30 minutes, whereas a 20-minute nap will boost your performance for 3 to 4 hours. So a 20-minute power nap, excellent, and between 2 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon. But there's the other side of it, is why do you need to have a nap? If you're getting sufficient sleep at night, you shouldn't need a nap. And nor should I, as your employer, let you nap, because you could have been out partying. You know, your employees have a responsibility to turn up to work fit to work, and that can involve sleep. You know, if somebody comes in and says, oh, I'm a bit sleepy, well, they shouldn't have come to work. They're a danger to themselves and to others. So yes, naps, if it's unavoidable, but it shouldn't be a routine. You shouldn't be going around buying people nap pods to sleep in. You should be designing their work schedules in a way that they don't need any sort of nap.
Okay. So no nap breaks then, instead of cigarette breaks.
Well, I mean, as I say, if your boss walks in and says, look, this has to get out today, you know, can you put the hours in to, you know, get this finished? Well, yeah, have a 20-minute nap so you can work a bit into the night. But, you know, it has to be on a sort of an ad hoc basis rather than it being company policy. But it's certainly better that people accept people napping rather than you having to skulk off to the toilets and lock yourself in for a nap.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. So that's all the questions that are on the chat. John, is there anything else you wanted to pick up? Bear in mind it's 7 o'clock.
Yeah, no, I think that's it, Michelle. We've had a good number of questions come through on there. The only question, again, just linking in with John's about the cat and the dog, teenagers seem to spend a huge amount of time in bed.
Teenagers need to go to bed later. There's a shift in their biological rhythm. So your average teenager should be going to bed around 11, 11:30, but teenagers need to sleep longer because they're going through puberty. So your average teenager needs 9 to 9.5 hours sleep. So if a teenager says they can't get out of bed at 9 o'clock in the morning, they may actually be telling you the truth. If they say they can't get out of bed until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they're a liar. There's no reason for them to need that much sleep. So yeah, teenagers are odd. Yeah.
Any advice, lastly, Neil, for people who are dealing with change in their life? You know, they've got a new baby, they've got a new puppy, there's something in the house that is absenting them from being able to get a good night's sleep?
Well, to merely, I mean, whenever I get asked the question, how do you get a good night's sleep? The first thing and the only thing I really say is see that sleep's important. Don't scrimp on sleep. Don't think you can burn the candle at both ends. Adopt behaviors that are positive for sleep. But you have to work out what works for you. You know, it's very easy to talk and say, well, you know, if you've got a new baby, you should do this. Well, some people are single parents. Some people have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Some people start work at 10 o'clock. So there's no easy way of saying, you know, this is a magic rule. You just need to prioritize your sleep. Do whatever you can, you know, through napping or sharing the workload or whatever you can to get the best night's sleep you can. And once you have that thought, then you'll start doing the behaviors that will be conducive for sleep.
Great, excellent. Well, if there's no further questions, then that draws us to an end for this evening's presentation. Neil, thanks ever so much. That was a fantastic presentation and great questions and answers we've gone through there. Thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. And hopefully we'll see you again sometime here at the West Midlands branch of IIRSM.
Yeah, and feel free to share my details with anybody. And if any of you run a company and you want to know more about how to, you know, make sleep a priority in your company, you've got my email address. Just contact me. This is not a business opportunity. It won't cost you a penny. If you want to know anything more about helping you and your staff get a better night's sleep. But thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, thanks a lot. Cheers.
Great. Thanks very much, everybody. Thank you.